Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is lemon ginger tea, which I'm currently drinking. This is from Bigelow. It's your basic herbal, but it's really nice and somewhat healthy. And I thought that would be appropriate to talk about what I'm currently drinking because I'm going to talk about what I'm currently reading. And that is only technically because I'm going into what is on my Goodreads currently reading list currently. Um, Sensing a current. Anyway, what is occurring? Anyway, so I have had this list going, as many of you who use Goodreads has had for some time. I think I kept up my list since around 2019, around when I started BookTube, and I thought it would be a good thing to have. And I like it because you can update your progress. Hey, I read, 2 chapters. Now I can update where am I at now. It looks nice. And then when you finish it, you could do a review, stars, whatever, and it goes into your reading challenge, whatever. It's a good way of keeping track of things, and I love being able to keep track of things. But it's a little out of hand. Now, I do not know, and I'm not going to ask you. You can let me know if you want to, what you do if you have Goodreads. Do you have like 40 books I'm currently reading, and maybe I'm just um, being over judgmental of myself? I don't know. But I have over 20 books in currently reading on Goodreads. And I can very honestly say that a good chunk of them I am not reading. And does that mean I don't want to read them? No, the thing is, if I started them and if they're on there, that means I wanted to read them, possibly that I didn't want to give up on it. Whatever book I was reading, I might have said, okay, oh, this is actually good. Something distracted me. Maybe I got involved in some reading challenge. Maybe, some other book was more interesting to me. Maybe something about that book was off-putting to me at that time, and I said, oh, it's not for me, but I made progress, and maybe I'll pick it up at another time. Whatever reason, there's so many reasons. And often when I really feel like it's going to be a DNF, because that does happen, I will just remove it from my currently reading and get on with my life. But my problem is that these I don't really want to let go of for some reason or another, and yet I don't care to see them every time I go back to update things. So, and I'm thinking about making a goal. It's not so strict. I want it to be for this year, 2025. So that would be really nice if I could actually achieve this goal, or at least come close. And that would be to have 10 books going in my currently reading. And the reason why I picked 10 is because for me, that's realistic. I am a bit of all over the place when it comes to my reading. There are occasional books that I'm so wrapped up in, they're the only ones I'm reading right now. But often I have books that within, say, a couple of weeks or within a month, I am picking up at different intervals. Some of the books I am holding with me, or carrying with me, I should say, when I'm going on my commutes or whatever, and some of them I'm reading at home, whatever. And, I don't maybe read them every single day, but I definitely am making progress in them regularly. And that tends to be about 10 books. So if I could cut that off, if I could get rid of the rest of the books, over 10 more books out of this currently reading list by the end of this year, I would be very happy. And what I plan to do is just start making more progress in these books. And if some of them I'm just not getting back to, or, picking up and not really wanting to read, no matter how often I try, then I might just say to myself, look, it's a DNF. Just face it. It's a DNF. You're not reading it. You don't plan to read it anytime soon. If you read it again in 10 years, that's wonderful. But let's face it, time has really passed. And some of these time has really passed, and it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to show you first my 10 books in no particular order that I consider myself to be currently reading. One of them it's been a few months, but otherwise, basically, I've been reading them and enjoying them. And so, if anything, these are the ones that I need to keep up with and I'm happy with. But then the rest are books that it's been a while. And maybe you could suggest, if you want to, which ones I should hang on to if you particularly enjoyed it till the ending. Or maybe there are ones that you might say, hey, give up. get a life. So we'll see. The first one I'm going to show you, I just read, like I'm just literally currently reading, and that is this one, Thomas Cromwell. I gotta read it. The Untold Story of Henry VIII's Most Faithful Servant by Tracy Borman. Now, I've been seeing updates, well, it's over now, on the last installment of Wolf Hall, the dramatization, The Mirror and the Light, it was called, based on the book. And I got excited about Cromwell again. And that sounds weird. But I don't think it's out in America yet, unless I'm just missing something. So I suddenly remembered that I had made some progress in this book a while back, and it was in my currently reading, so let me pick it up again. And suddenly, I really want to read it, and I've made great progress, and so I'm very happy about this. I'm very into it. I'm not, pushing myself at all. I'm really interested. I'm up to Jane Seymour years, which was a short time period, and getting ever closer to the end of his life. Spoiler alert. Excuse me. Now the next one I'm going to show you is one that I'm going to be taking my time with this year. And I'm sorry if you can hear the radiator. It is loud today, but I am living in a city apartment and it's old. So if you like a little vintage sound effects, there it is. Still a little hot, but that's okay. Warm drinks are good. This one, yes, I'm going to be reading probably throughout the year because it's a collection of short stories. I like this particular writer, as you will see. I don't always like short stories, so sometimes I have to push myself, but this has been good so far, and so I think I'm going to make good progress in this. But it's not going to be something I'm going to finish overnight. And this is Agatha Christie, yep, Hercule Poirot, more than 50 stories, the complete short story. So that is an entire collection. Technically, this probably should count as a few books. I don't care, because again, if you saw my recent post, my recent video, I was clear about not wanting to get too tied up in numbers. So there it is. It's really good so far. I'll talk about it a little more when I've made more progress, but I have made some progress, over 100 pages in, and it's been fun because I've seen pretty much all the adaptations for the David Suchet, and it's kind of nice to see what was written first. Really enjoying that book. Here's one that I have resurrected for a group read. I started this in October of 2023, liked it, was going at it, and then I don't know, at some point early last year it just kind of fizzled out, but now I'm picking it up again, and it's Anthony Trollope. So I hate leaving Anthony Trollope. Do not like abandoning him. So I'm going to come back to it, and so far, so good. We have Orley Farm. I think the problem is that most of the story is good, but it gets into certain chapters that don't hold me. So I have to sort of, and I hate saying this because I hate forcing myself to read something, but in a book that is generally good, sometimes I have to push through certain chapters. I mean, years and years ago, I read Les Miserables, and there were a couple of chapters there that literally I just had to okay, we will get through this. And generally, it was a good book. So, yeah, I mean, Anthony Trollope. I love having an Anthony Trollope book going at all times if possible. So, this is the one. Okay, this is a great book. This is the one library book I have here. So, it is a really current read, because obviously I'm not going to keep a library book out forever. And it even has a library receipt in it as my bookmark. And this is The Eagle and the Heart, The Tragedy of Richard II and Henry IV by Helen Castor. I have been very much into this time period recently. I read a wonderful, I mentioned it in November, biography of Henry V, who comes after these two kings. And so I'm present for this time period right now. And it's a relatively new release. It is a fascinating story. These two, Richard II was the king, and his contemporary was very much contemporary, same year they were born, Henry IV. He became Henry IV afterwards. He is considered a usurper, but with reasons. So it's a really interesting story. I've already read books about both of them, but this is good. This is really good. Okay, speaking of history and a little further on, but not that much further on, and also covering some of that time period too. You're going to notice also, I don't know if I've already shown you this yet. No, some of these I've taken the dust jackets off of, and so they don't have the art right now, the cover art, but that's because I can't. I take them off when I'm reading them, and I put them in a safe place usually, because I find them floppy in the way, so I don't like that at all. Yeah, at least usually, because yeah, you're reading it and it's kind of falling off, and you're turning the page, you feel it flopping. I don't care for that. But this book I started in November, and I really like it, but I guess I've been reading too many history books right now, so it's been, and in December I was mostly reading mysteries. So this is no judgment on this book whatsoever. It's a great book, but I slow down and I think I'm going to pick up really soon. Son of Prophecy, The Rise of Henry Tudor by Nathan Amin. Very good book. Very Wales-centric. Well, it's a little more of the Welsh perspective. I mean, Henry Tudor was technically Welsh, and their relationship between Wales and the rest of, and England is a fascinating one. But this leads to his ancestry, Henry Tudor, who became Henry VII, and what their relationship with England was from for a number of centuries before Henry Tudor became Henry VII. So yeah, it's pretty great. And very much related to that is Bosworth, The Birth of the Tudors by Chris Skidmore. And this is the one I have not picked up in recent times. He wrote a really good book on Richard III as well. And so I have to get back to it. I was really going at a good clip, and then I don't know what happened. So yes, as you can see, I like history. In case you didn't know that. This is also historical. It's a little more art history, but it does actually find its way into mentioning Henry VIII. So more Tudors. This is Girl in a Green Gown, The History and Mystery of the Arnolfini Portrait by Carola Hicks. This is really pretty. I mean, because it's a cool painting anyway. But I started reading this. When did I start reading this? I think November again. So I've got a lot of things going from November apparently, but I bought this in London, and I do have this thought in my head. I have no means to get to London anytime soon at all, which is a shame because I really miss it. But I have this thought that if I finish half the books that I bought while I was there on my last trip, then I have permission to go back, which that and $2.90 will get me on the subway. So yeah, it's probably not going to happen. But anyway, so that's one of the books that I bought, so working on that. This is a book that is the second of a trilogy, and it is an Ella Montgomery book. And I was kind of buddy reading it with my sister. She's finished it already. So that's what happens sometimes when I read with someone. If they finish the book, I sometimes slow down for some reason. I don't know why. But I have made some progress, and that is Emily Climbs. So first it was Emily of New Moon, I think. Emily Climbs, and then Emily's Quest, I think. So I have enjoyed it so far. It's not really been what I've been in the mood for as much recently, but I still am very much liking it and getting back to it from time to time. This is a book I started on vacation, and I have not been on vacation in some time. So, and it is also Tudor related, but late Tudor related. And this is Elizabeth and Leicester. So, if you can see that, by, I forgot. Yep, upside down, Sarah Griswood. And this is about the relationship between Elizabeth I and Robert Dudley, who was just probably Elizabeth's the love of her life, but they never got together to be married because of many reasons. So it explores that relationship. Last but not least, because there was a digital book, but I'm not going to talk about it. It's not in the mood. I'm in the mood to more show you the physical books that I have. So it's only one digital. But last but not least is one I just started, and I've been trying to get to these 3 books in forever. And so finally one day I just said, okay, let me just start it and see how I make progress. And so far I like it. It's a huge book, so I cannot carry it with me anywhere. If I value my joints, and they haven't been so great lately at all. And but this is 3-part biography of Winston Spencer Churchill. And I'm not going to explain who he is. If you don't know who he is, look him up, because that's a whole thing. Maybe when I review these books, I will get more into that if you don't know. I think most people know who Winston Churchill was, right? So this is The Last Lion, Winston Spencer Churchill, Visions of Glory, 1874 to 1932, by William Manchester. So from his birth till a few years before World War II, he is a very famous figure in World War II. I mean, he was well known before that, but that's when, I mean, everybody remembers him from that time period more than anything. And he was a prime minister as well. He was the prime minister when the late Queen Elizabeth II became queen. So, you know, take of that what you will, but that's kind of cool. And a late Victorian. So I've been to his birthplace, and now I can read about his life. So that was the 10. And those are the ones that, you know, by all accounts should be on the list. But there's more. And I wanted to go in order, but I'm not going to, because they're all in disarray. This one is still a pretty recent read, and I don't know why I abandoned it, because it is a subject that I love. But, well, this is Pre-Raphaelites. Pre-Raphaelites in Love by Gay Deli, I think the name is. Man, it is hard to read anything on here. Sometimes I don't know the direction when they don't. Yes, Gay Deli. I knew it. I love reading about the Pre-Raphaelites, but it's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit about, too much about their love lives, which obviously is what the book is about. So maybe I just got a little tired of it, but I want to get back to it. This is a book about Beatrix Potter, A Life in Nature, by Linda Lear. Isn't it cute? Isn't it lovely? I recently heard a podcast about her, and I was like, man, I got to get back to this book. It is a big book, but it's cute, and I did enjoy it. Let me see what bookmark I was using. It doesn't have the tassel, but that's okay. Teapots. And that's very me. And I want to read about Beatrix Potter. I really do. And I remember getting this book actually took some effort for me. I was going around looking for it in different bookshops, and I think I ended up buying it online. I can't remember specifically, but I remember really looking for it for a while to see if I could get it at a local place, and I couldn't, apparently. Man, that is one whiny heater. But I don't complain, because I like the warmth. All right, we are well into things here. This is a book that I made an effort to find as well, and then I saw it everywhere. I couldn't find it in bookshops, and then suddenly I kept finding it everywhere. But it is very New York centric, and it is very bookshop centric. So this is Book Row, an anecdotal and pictorial history of the antiquarian book trade by Marvin Mondlin and Roy Meador. There it is. I find this whole history fascinating. It shows you the Strand, which is kind of funny because it's the only one left. Argosy, I guess, Argosy is in Midtown, and the Strand is also not its original location, but it's pretty close. So it's kind of funny. But anyway, I do like it, but I guess maybe it got to a slightly dull point. So again, I'm not blaming any of these books for being dull or anything. It's just sometimes you just. All right. This one I was reading in 2021. And if you think that's the oldest one, it is not. It's a mystery. I read other books in different order of this series, because it doesn't seem to matter whether you read it in a different order. I mean, there might be spoilers, but I don't know. This is by Stephanie Barron. I read the last ones, but this is like the second one, I think. It's called Jane and the Man of the Cloth. So, yeah. I was reading on a beach. I remember it was pretty nice. And then I stopped. Why? This is a book that I thought I'd show you. This is kind of one of the more recent ones that I started, well, last year. And my sister read it and really loved it and recommends it. And I read 20 pages of it and knew it was good, but I just didn't make any progress. But it keeps reminding me to read it in the currently reading. So, Oh, the Brave Music by Dorothy Evelyn Smith. Isn't it pretty? It's one of those women's British British Library Women's Writers, something, Women's Classics, I think, from over 100 years ago. And I think, and I want to read it. Why am I not reading it? Because I have all these other books to read. That's why. All right. Now we're getting further back, and yeah. This is a book that I started, I think, for Victober. I could be wrong. And it's Elizabeth Gaskell, who I love, and it's nonfiction, which I love. But I just didn't get farther than page 100, which actually isn't that bad. But The Life of Charlotte Bronte by Elizabeth Gaskell. I really, really want to read this book. And so this is why I'm glad I'm reminding myself that I have these to go on. Seeing them tangibly, I want to really get to them. So far, none of these have I wanted to actually stop reading. This one, I don't know. I got frustrated because it doesn't cover up to the point that I wanted it to cover, so I don't know what happened. This is the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. I had this book for a long time. Started a couple of years ago. It's a beautiful volume. And tidy. I could carry it with me. Compact. But I left off. I think I was getting frustrated because I realized that it wasn't going to cover the Revolution and the American Revolution, and so I wanted to hear his take on that, and I realized this is just his early years. But then I said to myself recently, so I read a book about bookshops recently, and they get into some of this early time with him, and I said, wow, I gotta get back to it. And then someone I know was reading this book recently, so I don't know, it encouraged me. Speaking of a book that I really, 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 these are all books that I probably was reading around the pandemic times. So yeah, if you're still here, yeah, we're getting, these are the oldest ones. This one was really good, and it's by an author I love. And why have I not finished this book? I do not know, but it is time to focus. This is one of the ones I really want to focus on this year more than anything. I do not want to give up on this more than almost all of these other books, and that is Charles Dickens' Dombey and Son. Look how far I made it. And for some reason, it's over halfway. And I know I got terribly spoiled about what's going to happen by the doctor's wife that I read in October. And I know that, but I still want to read it. I really want to read it. Did I mention I want to read it? So, and now here's a book that I finished, that I was reading, and then October of 2020 happened. And I didn't want to read it during that time, so I left off. I read 322 pages, which in most books would be most of the book. Not in this book. Alexandre Dumas' The Count of Monte Cristo. My goodness, I should have kept the abridged version. But it was good, but it was getting to a little bit that was a little swashbuckling-ish, which I know is a big thing about this book, but for some reason it wasn't holding me. But I feel this need to return to it at some point. I just have not been in the mood for it for years. I heard another adaptation of it came out, I think in French, and then it made me think about it again, and maybe, I don't know. This is one that I was reading, and it was about to be an anniversary of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and then it couldn't be because of the pandemic, so I left off at page, I know I haven't said every page that I left off with, but starting again, 99. Seems a lot of these books around 100. Something happened. It's about the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but which is one of my favorite subjects. I love that museum. I don't know why I haven't been going back much regularly. I think one of the things is I don't like not having my backpack with me, and they have some stern things because of, security reasons. Last time I went, they wanted me to carry it in front of me. I should have just checked it, but I don't know. And it was heavy, and I had just had one of my way too often coughing fits, and as I was walking over there, and so I was having a bit of pain. So putting something right in front that was kind of heavy, not for me. And so I got a little cranky and haven't been back in a while. But that's not the museum's fault, really. I gotta go back. And I gotta start reading this book again. It's called Rose Gallery, The Secret History of the Moguls and the Money That Made the Metropolitan Museum by Michael Gross. I've heard some reviews that weren't so favorable, but I like the history of things, even if it's a little bit gossipy or scandalous. I kind of like to know what went behind this famous, big, place that has so many treasures, and how did it get that way? I read a fiction book about J.P. Morgan, and I got into that a little bit. These are the last two. This one makes me sad. I got as far as, let's see, 217, which is pretty good progress. It's just a little over 400 pages, so that was really good progress. And this was recommended when I was going through my Anglo-Saxon big reading phase. I still want to read more about that, but it just hasn't been a time period I've been focusing on lately. But it was recommended by Jennifer Brooks. And, I remember telling her, and I guess in a comment or wherever I was talking to her, that I was reading this. And she was like, oh, that's great, whatever. And then I guess I got other books in the way. So I don't know. It's a little sad for me, but I still kind of want to read it. It's Alfred's Britain, War and Peace in the Viking Age. It's pretty good, as far as I can remember, but I just have to get my mind focused on that time period more than anything. There was another book that I actually removed from my currently reading because the names were just too much, but these were not too bad. Not too bad. Last but not least, this one, as well as Dombey and Son, I remember reading in January of 2020, during jury duty. Because I had to be in jury duty for a couple of days and I didn't get to go on trial, which I'm totally fine with. But I had to have something to read, so I brought books with me, and this was one of them. And this one, I don't seem to, where is the bookmark? Uh-oh. Well, I think I have it in Goodreads. I can check, but which is weird. So I can't tell you how much progress I made. I know I made some progress. It's called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. She, I believe, is also a therapist who was seeing therapy. So a therapist, her therapist, and our lives revealed. I like psychiatry, psychotherapy, and all that. It's interesting to me. So the subject was fascinating, but I don't know. Oh wait, this is not least. This is a long video. Oh. But anyway, so maybe I'll get back to that one, or maybe that will be the one to go. Last but not least, but the writing is the least. The print is the least. So it's really hard for me. And it's an author I really want to get into. And it's Charlotte Young's The Clever Woman of the Family. Also a October 2023 book. Was pretty good. I don't think it's her best book, but it was pretty good. But I really was struggling with the font, so I may just have to find an e-version of it, a digital version. But I've been struggling with reading digitally lately. It's just, I don't know. I just haven't wanted to. So we'll see. I'm out of breath because that's a long video of talking, almost half an hour. So again, please let me know if you've read any of these books, which ones you most want to see me finish, or that you would at least recommend I finish. And if there's any here that you think should really be tossed, you could say that too. And that is all for now. Let me know if there's any books that you've had going on for 100 years, or at least 5 years, or some period of time, and you think maybe should I give up on it? Let me know. Maybe I can give you advice about that too. I don't know. So that's all for today. And this is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. I shall say no more. This has been a good discussion, but I'm tired. Have a very good tea and book-filled, very many book-filled day. Bye.